The most trending relationship online right now is like Blueface and Krishan.
Oh my God.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
don't
that's
even.
what's normalized. That's what is addicting. That's what's being fed. And it's like millions and millions of views, millions and millions of people are like, this is goals. Right. And so for whatever reason, people identify with that.
Welcome back to the podcast. I started this podcast as a way to help Black men in all aspects of our lives. Studies show on average we lose 2.8 years of our life when we're under heavy stress. And I think we can gain those 2.8 years back if we express ourselves healthily. Stick with me as I interview therapists, doctors, advocates, activists, and friends about how we can be better as Black men and as a Black community. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube and following us on Instagram and TikTok, you'll definitely want to do that. Without further ado, let's get into the episode. All right, y'all. We're back with Nicole. Nicole is a founder, a businesswoman. You do a lot of different things. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast is because you have a platform called Affirmations for Black Men. And I think it's dope what you do. But instead of me introducing you, I'd rather you talk about what you do and like a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Which camera should I look at? 4, 3?
4.
3. Okay. So my name is Nicole Glass. I am the creator of Affirmations for Black Men. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. I do so much, but what I'm passionate about is helping people find their journey towards loving themselves. And after I really went through an experience where I realized I didn't love myself yet, and I started affirming myself through positive affirmations, I just wanted to spread that love, spread that affirmation to other people. And it turned into something that completely exploded. And I found that there was like a serious need within our community for Black men to hear from Black women that they are loved, that they are cherished, and that they're a priority. And so I just started making content solely for Black men this summer. And it's something I'm really passionate about and love to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And one of the things we were talking about, we did an IG live, right? And we were talking about, or I was telling you, that Black men need to see Black women speaking life into them, right? Because we see a lot of content on social media where it's either Black men bashing Black women or Black women bashing Black men. And then we have a whole category of content called gender war content where it's just us divided. You know what I'm saying? So when we have the complete opposite of that, which is your platform, a Black woman speaking life into Black men, it helps to bridge that gap, right? And repair the fracture that's in the relationship. So I appreciate you. And that's the reason why I wanted to hit you up and have you on the podcast. And I know you spoke to it a little bit, but can you tell me how did you get into that? Because I don't feel like, I wish it was normal, but it's not, right? So how did you get into like creating these affirmations for Black men? What sparked that?
Honestly, I think my dating life really sparked it.
Okay.
As I date in the Philly area. I'm 20 minutes outside of Philly, and obviously it's a city of brotherly love. We have a lot of amazing Black men that come out of that city. But what I felt while I was dating, I felt that there was a sense of earned love.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it was just this idea that I had to earn love and appreciation, and that built up a little bit of a resentment inside of me. I kind of felt like, why am I just not loved as I am? Why can't I just receive affection without having to perform? And that resentment built into this like anger. And as I was on my self-love journey, I realized that I needed to show myself appreciation. I needed to show myself love. And as I kind of found that baseline for what love is, I realized how much Black men didn't feel that. I realized how much the reason why they thought earned love was normal was because that's all that they received. And so I was getting mad at them for the conditions that they're constantly faced with. And they're only like knowing what love is under conditional love, under like, I have to be at this level. I have to perform at this level in order to receive attention, affection, and, I don't know, like any sort of appreciation. Like I have to be successful in one way or another. I have to be creative in one way or another. I have to be athletic in one way or another. And so because I have to show up like this, when a woman comes into my life, I'm going to need her to earn that spot too. And if she doesn't earn that spot, and she just is able to get this love for free, or she giving me love for free, it doesn't feel authentic to me because that's never been my situation. And so it's like this constant battle between that I found myself in between Black men and Black women, that it was just kind of, frustrating to me, and I didn't understand it until I understood myself more. So that's a little
Yeah, no,
why.
I think you break that down perfectly, right? Like you're talking about us performing for love, right? And that's something that we talk about on the platform from time to time. We deal with that for real. We think that in order for us to be loved, we do have to perform, and I think that's part of the way that we've been socialized, the way that we've been raised in society. What you mentioned is very, very true. Like as a Black man, most of the times we don't feel like we'll be loved just for being ourselves. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I can't just exist and be loved. I have to do something in order to be loved, right? And so I think that also does play into some of the relationships that you had. But then also, I think on the flip side of that too, I think a lot of people that have that mindset of earned trust in a relationship, that sometimes comes from trauma growing up, where somebody was abandoned or they felt rejected or whatever the case may be. And so now, to make sure that they don't have to face that type of pain again, it's this person will earn my trust. I'm not going to give it to them because last time I gave my trust away, I was abandoned or I was rejected. So this time they have to earn it so that I know that I won't experience that pain again. So it's almost like it's a trauma response.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
true.
difficult. It's
That's
difficult,
true.
man. It's difficult. I think I wanted to ask you too, like, so how has this impacted you? How has it helped you? Because I know we talked about that a little bit. And you were telling me some things, but what do you feel like is done for you? Because I feel like you give out so much to Black men. Like, what are you receiving from this?
Information.
Okay.
I think that I didn't realize how much of there was a lack in the study of Black male emotion, and the fact that I get to be intentional every day on how to love on Black men. And I've been going, I think, for 186 days of daily affirmations for Black men. And never has been a day that I've came up empty.
Right.
Didn't have anything beautiful to say about them, about y'all. And so it's just so interesting that I didn't realize how much of a lack there was there until people were commenting like, hey, I needed to hear this. Like I was going to commit suicide and like I was in a really dark place. Like your words are pouring into me. And I was like, oh my God, I hear this stuff all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? From my church, from my community, from my family.
Right.
I'm loved as a woman, as a Black woman, just for existing.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy when you talk to Black men and I'm just like, yeah, I love you. Like I love Black men. And the fact that y'all are so shocked, it's like, what's going on?
Yeah, that tells you the state of our community, right? Like whenever I talk to Black men, no matter how positive they are, they've seen some type of content or something on social media that triggers them, where it's that gender war type of content. It's, F Black man or Black man ain't shit and whatever the case may be, right? So we're all very aware of that. Even with the platform that I run, right? You would say it's positive, it's helpful, it's healing. But I'm very aware that there's another side of social media and, the world in which we have to perform or we aren't loved just for being ourselves. So I think we have to be aware of that, but we also have to be hyper focused on the positive. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just talking to the fellas that I introduced you to before we started the podcast. Each One Teach One. They got a dope podcast for those of you guys that are interested in music and just Black men speaking, expressing themselves. So if you guys are interested in that, definitely go tap into their podcast. It's called Each One Teach One. But I was talking to them and we were just talking about how, they don't want to create content where it's like arguments amongst black men and women. They don't want to feed into that. And I was like, and they were like, yeah, because that's what we end up seeing on social media. And so
Yeah.
what I was saying is like, yeah, you got to stay hyper focused on the positive. Not that you're ignorant to what's out there, but just understanding that diving into that is not helpful for your mental, right? And I want to speak to you about that because I feel like it's very easy to get caught up in that. You go through a few bad dating experiences, somebody hurts you, and they happen to be a black man, and it gets very easy to get caught up in the I hate black men ain't shit loop. Do you feel like you experienced that for a little bit, or like why didn't you? I guess my question is, what made you take the opposite approach instead of going down that route?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Because to not know love is to not live.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a really cold and dark world without being able to experience life from a loving lens.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're raised in coldness, when you're raised in darkness without that warmth, of course you're gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only perceive from this lens of lack, from this lens of this love that is struggle, right? Like the most trending relationship online right now is like Blueface and Krishan.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? That's what's normalized. That's what is addicting. That's what's being fed. And it's like millions and millions of views, millions and millions of people are like, this is goals, right? And so for whatever reason, people identify with that. That's trending. Like every single day it's trending. And so that's what Black love looks like to us. And I think that I have hope that we can create a new narrative of what Black love can look like, because I also believe it's so powerful.
Right. Man, listen, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. That's what the work is about, right? Like creating a better, a more whole Black community, because we need each other. This is what I always say on a platform. We need each other, right? Black men need Black women. Black women need Black men. We get nowhere by dividing ourselves. So I'm glad you said empathy, because, man, do we need more of that in our community? You know what I'm saying? Like, what I was going to speak to is I've been hurt before. I talk about it openly on the platform all the time. I've been cheated on as a Black man. Like, I think that's one of the hardest experiences, in my opinion, as a Black man to go through, right? Is to be cheated on. And the reason why I say that is because we're taught, and I'm not saying that this is right, but this is what we're taught. We're taught that the person that we get with is almost like our possession. That's like your prized possession. You protect and you provide for them. Like that's yours, right? So when you get cheated on, it's like, damn, I was trying to do all this to protect and provide for you, and you're basically saying to me through this action that none of that meant shit to you. On top of the fact that you as a man, naturally you have an ego, right? And your ego is hurt. Your ego is shot in that experience. And so it could have been very easy for me, with all the creativity that I have, to start a platform up and just start talking shit about Black women. You know what I'm saying? But what do I get from that? What do I gain? Because I'm hurt now, I'm going to now build a community of hurt men and then perpetuate this hurt and make our community worse because of that. So it's like, that's why I say to hyper focus on the positive, because it's not that I don't acknowledge what happened, right? It's not that I don't acknowledge being cheated on. I don't acknowledge the trauma and the pain. It's not that I don't hold her accountable for that. But it's also that I hold myself accountable for the situation, what I was in, right? Not leaving a relationship that I knew I wasn't valued in before that even happened, right? Because there were signs. And then also, I hold myself accountable for the healing that I had to do afterwards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's part of what you're doing with your platform, is like, while you may have experienced something, you've had empathy to the point where you're able to speak into the same demographic, right? And then also, I feel like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's helping you to heal. We talked about that. So how do you feel like that process is going? Like, how does this help you heal?
Oh man. I get to pour love every single day into the men in my life, into the men in my family. When I think of my affirmations for Black men, I think about the men in my community. And I feel like I'm helping. People are telling me I'm helping. It helps me also not identify. I think a lot of us, when we go through those experiences, like you were saying, whether it's cheating or whether it's someone triggering us in a particular way, we blame the person. And then so how I started really reframing that thought is like, this person is, you know, obviously a hurt person and it's going to continue those cycles. And that has nothing to do with me. But I, even though I can't be there for them right now, I hope that they also heal. Right. Because everybody is at a different point in their healing journey.
Right.
So like, if I can't identify with the pain that they're going to cause, you know, I can only remove myself and then pray for them. But I think that a lot of people will identify with like particular pains, like obviously like that's a trust and that's a loyalty like trigger, you know, but at the same time, like it was a redirection and now you're, look where you are now, you know? Like,
that's true.
So everything happens in your favor regardless. And when you don't identify with those things and you don't allow them to change you, you become more powerful.
All right, I'm interrupting this podcast episode to let you guys know to leave a review on the podcast. Please, 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 if you are listening to this episode and you're finding value in this episode, you're enjoying the conversation, or you've enjoyed a previous episode or conversation, and it's safe to operate your phone right now, please leave us a review. Your review is a free and easy way to support us, and it helps us reach more people like you. We're on a mission to build a stronger, more connected Black community, starting with Black men. And you can help us on that mission by taking a minute out of your day to leave a review. Your review helps us generate more listeners, which in turn generates more revenue, allowing us to expand the platform even further. So please take a few seconds out of your day. I know you're busy. I understand. I know you're doing a lot, but it will help us greatly if you would just take a few seconds out of your day to leave a review right now. Did you leave a review yet? All right, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's one thing I tell Black men too, man. Because what ends up happening is when we go through that trauma of being like cheated on, we start thinking, okay, I need to change. I need to be cold. Right? And there's a lot of Black men that succumb to that thought process. Like, I have to be this hard and tough dude in order for me not to experience this type of trauma or pain again. And don't get me wrong, like I'm all for setting boundaries. Like boundaries are cool, right? That's what we need to do, right? But what we end up doing when we go through that type of trauma is we don't set up a boundary. We put up a wall, right? Like we put up a wall. And what I tell Black men is there's a difference between a wall and a door. A door is a boundary, right? A wall keeps everybody out. A door lets the right people in, right? So you have to identify, do I have a wall up right now or do I have a door? Am I letting certain people in or am I keeping everybody out, right? And I think that's the thought process that we have to get into after we start experiencing these traumatic situations. Like, what do we do after this to make sure that we're able to function in a healthy society, in a healthy relationship? Because if you don't do that healing, you end up meeting dope people and they can't crack the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They can't crack the wall because you've put it up.
Yeah.
You got to be able to open the door for them, right? And until you're able to do that, you will have these one-sided relationships where you have one person that really may mess with you, that may be a dope individual, that really wants to be with you, but they just can't keep on banging their head against the wall. You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
Seriously, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's, and I experienced that with my girl, right? Like, I literally, after I got cheated on, I started going to therapy and doing the work on myself. And then, you know, I was talking to my girl and we were dating before we got into like an actual relationship. And, I was doing all the things to her that I should have technically kind of been doing with my ex that cheated on me, right? Where like, but not in a healthy way, right? I'm thinking I'm setting boundaries. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. But really what I'm doing is putting up a wall and saying that I don't trust you based off of what has happened to me in the past. And so we had to have a conversation about that. You know what I'm saying? Where she was like, yo, I'm not her.
Damn.
Seriously, right? Like this
Damn.
is what it is, right? Like this is
Yeah.
what the work is. And I started to realize like, yo, I'm gonna lose a dope person that really cares about me if I don't do this work on myself.
Because you were internalizing what someone else did to you, and then you started mimicking that behavior and then projecting that pain onto someone else, as opposed to, just not identifying with it.
Right. I had fully identified with it, and I had fully succumbed to the idea that all women will hurt you if you don't take proper precautions. And that's where a lot of men are right now.
Yeah.
Women are out to hurt me. And I want to be with women, but at the same time, I have to protect myself from getting hurt. You know what I'm saying? And
by hurting yourself and repeating patterns that might like block you from something really beautiful.
Right.
Like that other person might have to go through different healing stages, but if you're already at this place where you can give love to close yourself off, you know what I mean? And then to repeat those cycles, it's just unhealthy.
Yep. And we don't realize how that ends up perpetuating more trauma, right? The same thing that you think is going to protect you from that pain, you putting up that wall, is actually creating more trauma.
Exactly.
Compounded trauma on top of the trauma that you already experienced. So the initial betrayal trauma where you had the cheating, now you put the wall up, you meet this dope person, they end up leaving because you have the wall up. Now you have another traumatic situation compounded on top of that. It's tough. You know what I'm saying? And it just keeps on compounding. And until you understand what's at the root of why you operate the way you operate, you'll always continue to have that compounded trauma on top of whatever it is, the initial layer of trauma that you haven't addressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. We talking. Well, I want to ask you, have you been in therapy? Like, do you feel like, if you have, has it helped you?
Yeah, I have been in therapy.
Okay.
Recently, I got out of a relationship over the summer, and I thought that I could handle someone who had been in prison before and who wasn't in therapy. I was like, oh, I can. That's nothing.
Like,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm Nicole. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay,
I'm not going to internalize nothing.
Right.
But after that experience, I definitely needed more therapy because I was internalizing that other person's trauma. And so how I was able to not do that, and this is, again, leading with empathy. Like, this person is experiencing, like, what I'm receiving from this person is how they're experiencing love. This is how they're experiencing love. And this is what they're projecting onto me. This is their world and their cycles that they need to heal and grow from. And it's not my responsibility to like make changes to myself based on, this person not being able to receive and give. And so I think like the stop for me, like where I stopped the buck, was just being grateful for having the opportunity to like detach from this idea that because this didn't work out, that has something, you know what I mean? Like something's wrong with me, or I'm never gonna move like this in love again. And, I really had to realize like we have this opportunity to create love with ourselves. And like, I wanna be like, I'm gonna find my soulmate by searching within myself. Like my soulmate is myself. My soulmate is within me. And so I have this opportunity to really get to know myself, get to know my triggers, to understand myself, to be able to communicate myself efficiently and clearly. And someone is going to come in my life and they're going to be willing to be with me, or they're going to not be willing to do that. But I don't have to identify with that.
Right.
Like, I don't have to internalize that.
Right.
Life is too beautiful. We're too deserving of beautiful experiences, friendships, relationships. And I feel like within our community, sometimes we just super hyper focus on like the negative. And sometimes someone falling off is actually a blessing.
Talk about it. Please get into that.
When you start living in gratitude and saying your affirmations daily, don't just listen to me say it, right? Say them for yourself and really understand that you have this like amazing opportunity at life to love yourself and understand how you want to be loved, and set negotiations with people, whether they're willing to do that or not,
Right.
it gets fun.
No, you're absolutely right. One of the things you mentioned, right? Now you got me in my bag because now I'm thinking about the being cheated on. And I made a post and I said, getting cheated on was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Literally. It was literally
Wow.
one of the best things that ever happened to me. If I didn't get cheated on, I don't leave that relationship, right? If I don't leave that relationship, I don't decide, you know what? I need to invest in my mental health and I need to go to therapy, right? I don't meet my therapist, who's a Black woman, who helps me to see, okay, you think you're self-aware, but you're actually not. And you have all of this unhealthy attachment. And that's part of the reason why you have all of these issues when it comes to being in relationships. And on top of that, not just the work that it did for me personally to help me to get into the relationship that I'm in now and help me to be able to facilitate more, healthier relationships, express yourself, Black man. The whole platform was based off of me starting my healing process or really diving deep because I had already started my healing process, but just diving deeper into my healing process through therapy, right? And that's the reason why we have the platform to this day. So if I don't get cheated on, that doesn't create the trigger for me to then go and take the action of getting into therapy, which then creates the other actions of Express Yourself, Black Man, podcast, platform, safe haven. You know what I'm saying? So
Wow.
literally one of the best things that happened to me. So when you say sometimes people falling off is really good for you, I would say I think that's all the time. Like if you believe in God, right? Like one thing that I always pray before I come to any podcast or I do anything is for God's will to be done, not mine. You know what I'm saying? And I pray for divine alignment with that, right? So that I'm aligned with what God wants for me, right? So we're not we're not in friction, right? Because when certain things happen, you're like, oh my God, I really wanted this thing to line up, but God is trying to protect you from something else. That if this thing lined up, that would have lined up as well, and you would have been in a way worse position. So let's cut it off at the root right now, so you don't get set up for something that's going to have you in turmoil 5-10 years down the line. That's the way I see it. Because now, in hindsight, if I had stayed in that relationship, I would be miserable. If that relationship had worked out, I would be miserable right now. Miserable. Like literally, I know it. I wouldn't be diving into my passion. I wouldn't be doing these podcast episodes, meeting dope people, right? I wouldn't be networking. I wouldn't have the business. I wouldn't have the platform. I wouldn't be helping a bunch of different Black men. Not only would I be miserable, but I wouldn't be walking in my purpose and being able to help other people. Other people would be more miserable.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? So like so I literally had to sit there and think about it like, yo, that was one of the best things that happened to me. Like in hindsight. And in the moment, it felt terrible. I was angry. I was upset. God, why are you doing this, bro? Like, what's up? You hate me? You know what I'm saying? Like I was having these conversations like, why? What did I do wrong? I feel like I'm a good guy. I'm not out here cheating. You know what I'm saying? I'm not out here trying to do people dirty. Why am I getting cheated on?
Because you tried to control the situation.
Yeah.
When it was really divine protection.
Right.
And like to even caveat off of what you said, because it's like perfect synchronicity. Like the reason why my relationship didn't work out was because most people, when they come out of jail, they dream about all of the things that they're going to have control over. When you're in jail, you have no control over anything. Not the time when you wake up, not the time when you eat, what you wear. And so there's this feeling and there's this sense of, but I'm going to have control over my relationship where I live. When I get out, I'm in jail for 10 years. When I get out, this is how it's going to go. And so when you meet someone like me, I'm very free spirited. I love to travel.
Yeah.
I'm not a this is how it's going to go type of person. I'm like, we can co-create. And that wasn't flying. And that's one of the major reasons why our relationship didn't work out. But I think that there's this sense of within our community, within Black men, they don't have control in so many areas of their lives.
Get into
and
it.
It's just a different type of prison. So like when we go to work, you know what I mean? When we go on the street, our bodies, our content. And so when we're in relationships with each other, right, this is how it's going to go. And there's this friction when you kind of try to connect with Black women who often times, like we're so smart and creative too. We just want to be involved, in the decision making. We want to trust, but we We want to be involved. And then you have men, they just want to feel like men. And it's like, this is the only part of my life where I can have this control and you're not letting me have it. I feel wobbly everywhere else. I'm not trying to feel wobbly here. And so we have this like friction and this resentment, but we're mad at each other when it's the systems that are created, you know what I mean? To make us feel like this sense of lack of control in our lives and all of these things. And it just adds up. And so it's not us against each other. It's us against the problem.
Right.
So how do we reframe that and then build and work together?
So what's, man, first of all, we need to pause and just let people digest because, man, what's like, I know there's a lot of men that are listening to what you're saying right now and they have a question like, so what do I do when I want to, because what they'll say is not controlling, it's leading. Like that's the word that men will use. But you know what I'm saying? I have a whole post on leading. Maybe I'll post it this week or the week after or something like that. But what do you feel like the suggestion is for someone that's like you, right? That's very free flowing. What is the suggestion for a man that's going to be with a woman like you? Because I feel like most men have met women like you that are free flowing, that want to have input in decisions. And I agree, right? But they don't know how to facilitate a relationship like that. So what would your suggestion be for a man that's walking into a situation like that or maybe in a situation like that right now?
I think one of the main issues that when it comes to me is that when things don't work out with me, men can get really frustrated. But it's like, it's just not us. That's okay. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I think a lot of people try their best to force relationships or to force like, oh, because this person, even women and men, this person has this or that. I gotta make this work. There's so many people, you know what I mean? I think what in this negotiation, knowing who you are, knowing what you want, and then also, going on dates and then seeing if there's someone that there's an alignment there. I'm all about what's aligned and like, is our purpose aligned? Do we both like to travel? It's not I think when people say I'm leading and we got to do it this way. And it's like, we just don't have to do it with each other. It's just not you. But you're trying to force because people, they want someone who's attractive. They want someone who makes a certain amount of money. They want someone who's charismatic. They have all these like surface level lists, but it's like, are we aligned on these like character aspects? Don't force it if it's not.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. One of the things that I tell people that are single, right? Man, woman alike, right? It doesn't matter, is you got to have a list, right? Not the surface level list, right? You talk about character traits, right? What are the characteristics of the person that you're looking for? What do you want them? What are you looking for in a partner? I think a lot of times as men, right? Like we have the surface level list, right? It's like, listen, man, I'm a straight guy. I'm looking for one woman. She got to look good, big titties, nice ass. I'm good to go, right? And it's like, bro, I get it. Don't get me wrong. I'm a guy. I've been through it. I understand, right? But at the same time, let's dig a little deeper, bro, because that's everybody out here. Everybody can do that. If you have enough money at this point, you can have that. You know what I'm saying? So what else are we looking for outside of that? What type of person do you want to be with? What type of person? Not object.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Because if you don't understand that, you're just going to keep getting frustrated every single time.
Right.
At the person when they're just being them.
Right.
You're just mad at them being them?
Right.
Because you don't know what you want? That don't make no sense.
Nah, absolutely. And then that's when you get to hitting your head on the wall and now you're going through trauma and now you feel like to earn trust. You know what I'm saying? Now people have to earn my trust. Now you actually meet a dope person and this person is dope. But now because you went with this other person and you feel like you have to put the wall up, now again, we get back to the conversation of you're missing out on a relationship or a person that could really help and elevate you, but you have this trauma that's stopping you guys from having that, having that relationship.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
This is
man.
getting good.
Yeah. Oh,
And
man.
I
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
take back from your leading conversation
No,
too.
go ahead.
Like,
Yeah.
what's the difference between leading and controlling? I feel like that's a really good, amazing question.
Yeah.
So I guess like from my personal experience, it's been me just being me and like not letting up on who it is that I am.
Mhm.
But then I felt like in my dating experiences, not that, you know, your partner wanting you to change is a bad thing,
Mhm.
but I think it was just like on major things.
Mhm.
I was always asked, why are you so friendly? I don't like that.
Yeah. Why are you friendly?
Yeah, I'm like, that's kind of
Mhm.
at the core of who I am. Like, you
Mhm.
know, I can't change who I am.
Right.
And that's kind of when I said, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I love Black people. I love Black women. I love Black men. I'm like, this is my vibe. This is who I am. So it's like, if you know you don't like a woman that's vibrant and charismatic, I'm not the woman for you. But because we have all these surface level lists, and it's like I might check those boxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's
Yeah.
now you're trying to change me with these other boxes because there's a scarcity mindset. So when you say that you're leading, what do you mean by that? Right? Like, are you accepting the person for who they are at their core, and then, you know, allowing them in on your vision and seeing if they want to go on your vision, not just not just telling them, right? Because a good leader inspires. Right? Like
a good leader inspires, they don't dictate.
Does exactly. And that's the difference. There's a lot of different leadership styles, and I guess it's what the couple prefers as well. But for me, I prefer to feel inspired.
Yeah.
So
I want to piggyback on a leadership versus controlling, the leading versus controlling conversation, right? So I have a post where I talk about how to lead in a relationship, and the first thing I start with is listening. That's the first thing I start with. And the reason why I start with listening, right, is because you can't lead what you don't know. I can't lead you if if we were in a relationship, I can't lead in a relationship with you if I'm not listening to you. How do I know where we're going? How do I know where you want to go? How do I know where to insert you in the plan that I'm creating or that we're supposed to be co-creating? You know what I'm saying? If I'm not listening, right? And I think a lot of times what ends up happening is we will come up with blueprints and plans, and I'm guilty of this as well. This is why I always say on the podcast, like, yo, I hold myself accountable on here, right? Like, I'm guilty of this. We will create a plan, and everything will be lined up, and then we will just say, all right, cool. Here, babe, this is what the plan is. And as soon as we get any feedback or any type of deferral or from that plan, it's I can't do that. Nah, we can't do anything but this. This is super rigid, super strict, right? You're not free. You're not allowing things to be flexible, right? And so with someone like you that's free spirited, that's free flowing, that's not just seeming controlling, that is controlling, right? That's not allowed. That's not leading, right? That's not allowing your relationship to manifest into what it needs to be. It's you trying to create something that you want for yourself. It's very individualistic. And when you get in a relationship, what most people would teach you is that two individuals coming into one. You know what I'm saying? So it can't just be one individual's plan and the other person just is inserted into that. Like, I think it makes most sense for a man if he wants to lead properly, right? And people always get upset when I say lead properly because, like, what do you mean to lead properly, right? To lead the way that in which I think a man should lead. Start with listening, right? And just understand who your partner is. And this listening starts even before you get into a relationship. Before you even say, you know what, I want to be you the person that I want to be with. Before you even get there, you gotta listen. You gotta date with intention. You have to date with intention. Yes. And it goes back to the surface level list. When you're not dating with intention and you just have a checkbox of 3 things, and it all has to do with objectifying the person that you're with, of course you're gonna end up with a partner that you're not able to effectively plan with or strategize or lead with because you never really truly understood who they were in the first place.
Exactly. And you want to really get into something?
What's
like, up? Really? A lot of the men that I was dating had no relationship with God. And that was huge. That was huge.
Talk about it. Why was that huge?
Because a man that's leading and has no relationship with God, where is he going? Because like you're leading yourself and you're the dictator of your, like, it's almost like I need the man to listen and to be like, to be a servant of God, because it's like, seek out God first, and then you'll understand that there's not, we don't have a lot of control over things. Like the control that you think you have, you got to give it to God.
Right.
You got, like,
think about the prayer that I pray before I come here, right?
Yeah.
Let God's will be done and not mine, right? And then I let the episode flow that way, right? I come up with my 4 to 5 questions. Then after that, I'm like, all right, God, you know what? Whatever it is that you want us to get into, let's get into it. You know what I'm saying? I'll let the conversation flow that way. Like literally the other day, I was supposed to interview somebody. They weren't able to make it. Their manager was able to make it. And I already had booked the studio time. I'm not about to reschedule, right? You're already here. I'm here. So we shot the episode with his manager, right? Nice. And I ended up realizing, oh, I was supposed to shoot it with you anyway, right? But if I'm not allowing myself to be flexible, to allow plans to change, to receive from source instead of just assuming that the way that I envisioned it is the way that it should go, things don't pan out, right? You have to be able to let God do what God does. And I think you make a good point, right? Like that's also part of, I think being a comprehensive or whole man is being able to receive, right? And that goes to as small as listening to a person, but also being able to receive from God, being able to receive from source. Because you're not always going to have the answers. I don't always have the answers. Sometimes I sit in podcasts, literally. I will sit in a podcast, someone will ask me a question. I was like, I don't even know what the hell to say. And I'll start talking and then things will just flow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's like, I'm talking, but it's almost like, it's not almost like it's not me. It's not me. Sometimes I feel like I'm having an out of body experience where I'm saying stuff and I'm listening to me talk and I'm like, where the hell did that come from? You know what I'm saying? Like literally I have those experiences sometimes. So I feel like it's important for us as men, as people just in general, like we have to be able to receive. Like I think you made a really good point there.
Yeah,
like,
and be a follower. Like you can't be a good leader without being a good follower. And so when a man is leading himself by himself, he's leading with ego. And so I've realized, I was like, I can't follow and be led by a man leading an ego. I have to be led by a man leading like with God.
What do you feel like leading with God versus leading with ego looks like? I want men to be able to identify.
Okay.
Do you have some?
Yeah. So I mean, there's layers and levels to this, but there's a difference between a man walking in his purpose and a man not walking in his purpose. A man leading in his ego and a man not leading in his ego. So I guess the difference for me is like the reason why I'm so free flowing is because I have so much faith. And so I have faith is healing because it's trust. And so when I know like this idea that we have so much control over our life and over the way that we think it's going to go, the reason why you're so upset that happens because you don't have faith. The reason why you're so attached to this outcome was because you thought, when in reality, only God knows, right? So this idea, like this frustration, this anger, this resentment, you're mad at this woman for cheating on you, but that's not your wife. Like that was clarity. Like that's like you're being covered. You know what I mean? And when you understand that and when you walk in that, it just feels so much more easeful.
Right.
And you're not carrying this like resentment, this anger, this like, you know, it's easier to walk. The walk is easier when you have that cover. So it's just different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you feel like, you feel like what I'm hearing is like a man that's leading with ego versus leading with God. The biggest thing is flexibility with knowing that regardless of the outcome, everything is working out in my favor. Do you feel like that's what it is?
Yeah, everything is working out in my favor. And I feel like men that are leading an ego sometimes will blame women. Speak.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know if I should speak to my situation.
You know, I mean, if you don't want to speak to your situation, you don't have to. I don't want you to speak to anything.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I guess I'm trying to like dissect
Mhm.
what I mean when I say that. So when they say blame,
Mhm.
and I think this is a real huge problem within our community too,
Mhm.
was because we're blaming each other for our internal dysfunction or like our like what we individually go through instead of like looking at through a lens with empathy. And there's just like anger, and then there's this attitude, and then there's this like fight. And so like when a man is leading in his purpose and walking with God, he's just, there's this aura and this glow about him. There's like there's this, you know, and you can't even explain it. You just know it when he walks in the room. Like he's really like he trusts.
Yeah.
Like I can't even put words to it for real, because it's just, you got to see it.
Yeah. You have to feel it.
You got to feel it. Yeah.
It's an energetic thing. I just met Chief from the Each One Teach One podcast. I keep talking about the podcast, but the reason why I'm talking about them is because 2 black men, dope dudes, and I could tell just off the initial meet and just having a conversation with them, that genuine, authentic dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm speaking about Chief specifically, right? Came in, great energy off rip, just as soon as he came in the room. You know, what's going on, y'all? How you doing, Queen? Like, how you doing, King? And I'm just like, yo, what's up? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a black man. Like, a lot of times, black men meeting black men, it's like the wall is up. You know what I'm saying? We armed. We're ready. We're ready for it to be some type of battle. And that's like the ego coming in, right? So I feel like he is a good example of what it's like to feel genuine, authentic energy, right? Like someone that's like in a space in his life where like is good energy around him. Like, and I really go off, because when you're doing business, as much as you need to be logical, you need to also be able to be in tune with the spiritual realm. And then that's where I've been lacking in the spiritual realm, like being able to be in tune with what people's intentions are, what people's vibes are, spirits, that kind of thing. So I try to get in tune with that. I think that's something that we struggle with as men, because we tend to focus more on the logic instead of what the feeling is, right? And so with him, literally, as soon as he came in, I'm like, damn, this dude got some good energy, bro. I just sat there and I listened to him talk about his platform, what he does. I was like, yo, that's dope. And I introduced myself and what I do with the platform. I was like, yo, we gonna do something. You know what I'm saying? Because I can tell off of the conversation that we're having right now, like, yo, you got some good energy, and whatever I could do to help to, you know, boost your platform and boost what it is that you're doing, like, I want to do that, because I can tell that you have good energy. And so like, yeah, man, that's what that reminded me of. And it also
it's different.
Yeah, it also reminded me of some conversation that I have with men where they don't feel completely comfortable with being vulnerable about stuff. And they'll see me talking about being cheated on, depression, and all these different kind of things. And they're like, yo, bro, how, like, you seem like you have, like, peace with this thing, like, these things. And I'm like, yeah, bro, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is life. This is what happens. You know what I'm saying? We go through these things. Like, this is why I do what I do, because I want black men to not take it as there's something wrong with me because I've experienced this. Like, nah, bro, you're human. These are the things that we go through. Like, unfortunately, right? Unfortunately. But don't think that you're the only person, because then what ends up happening is when you think you're the only person that's going through something, that's a very lonely walk. It's a lonely experience, right? I've been there, where it's like, I'm going through something and I'm like, damn, nobody will be able to relate. I'm going through this thing by myself, man. I got a immigrant dad, immigrant mom. You know what I'm saying? My relationship not really working out, and I followed this person to college. Nobody gonna relate to this. There's hundreds of thousands of people that can relate to that. Probably hundreds of thousands of black men that can relate to that. But the only way I'm gonna know is if I talk about it. That's the leading with vulnerability.
Yeah. I
right?
agree.
You know
I
what I'm saying?
completely agree.
Yeah.
But to be a vulnerable man
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't feel like he has to control the outcome, to
Mm.
have the outcome, to
Mm-hmm.
have the faith, to walk the path, it's
Mhm.
hard. It's not easy.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. No, yeah.
But
I see,
you know
yeah, I
what I'm
see,
saying?
yeah, no,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
easy.
yeah.
And so I think when people say that about you, I want you to receive that. It's
Mhm.
like a light. You know, like, so when I talk about these types of men, that's why I'm on this podcast, because I feel like you have that. Even, and you can feel that light on the internet. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Yeah.
So give you your flowers while I'm here, while we're
Thank
in
you.
person.
Thank you.
And it just feels different. And you do have a relationship with God, but you didn't have to tell me that for me to know that. You know, and as a woman, it's like to be able to be in the room with people who have that love, because I feel like God's love is unconditional, and that have that access and that are walking in their purpose. It feels so much safer.
Yeah.
Than someone who's walking for themselves, than a man that's doing for himself because he wants to do this. This is the plan because I said this is the plan. This is the plan because this is what I thought. This is the difference between leading an ego, right? What we were just talking about before is like, you're just a man.
Right.
You know? And so when we're leading an ego, it just means that we put ourselves on a pedestal above everything. And so it's like, how do I trust you as a woman when you're the number one? It's you're the number one. There's nothing outside of you that you are submitting to. I can't submit to you when you submit to nothing.
Oh no,
that's silly.
That's oh my
that's
Lord.
Silly.
They gonna hate that one. They gonna hate.
I'm sorry, guys.
They are gonna hate that one. They're gonna hate that.
You know
one.
what I'm saying, though?
No, I go. Oh yeah. Of course. I know exactly what you're saying, and I would get into the submission conversation, but I know they're not ready. They are not ready, because every time we get into the submission conversation, everybody's upset. Submission is like a trigger word. Submit is a trigger word.
Why?
For a lot of women, it's a trigger word, because when women hear the word submit, they think it means be obedient to whatever is being told to you at whatever cost. That's not the way that I define submission.
Yeah, me neither.
Right? But when they hear submit, that's a lot of women, that's the first place they go. And I understand, because I had to have conversations where I'm like, yo, I'm talking about submission, and y'all making it seem like I'm telling y'all to be abused. I'm like, yo, that's not what I'm saying. Right? Like,
talking from trauma.
You know what I'm saying? Right? And so I've had to understand that is a real trigger for a lot of women, which is why I don't really talk about submission on a platform anymore. But we can get into it, right? And when I talk about, like, what I mean by submission is knowing when not to lead. That's what I always say with submission.
That's good.
It's knowing when not to lead, right? Knowing when your partner or whoever it is that you're submitting to has a one-up, right? If my girl came on this platform and we were doing a podcast episode, she's going to submit to my leadership. Why? Because I've done 70 plus podcast episodes. I've been featured on a bunch of different podcasts. I know the ins and outs of running a podcast. Now, if we're going to go to her workplace, right, I'm going to submit to her. My girl works in the government. My girl has taught me how to shoot a gun. Most men will never in their life be caught dead being taught how to shoot a gun by a woman. Yeah. Never. But I said to myself, yo, this is what you do. You know what I'm saying? Like, why in the hell wouldn't I learn from you? Why wouldn't I sit here and take counsel from you when it comes to this? You do this. You shot multiple guns, not just a handgun. You shoot guns. You know what I'm saying? So of course I'm going to sit here and listen to you. I want to make sure I'm safe. One, I want to get home, right? And you know what you're talking about. So I'm going to submit to you in this area. And I think when we have the conversation, people don't put it in practical terms. Like, at the end of the day, we're all submitting. We are all submitting. Whether you want to, you know what I'm saying? Whether you want to admit it or not, there is things that you submit to. Whether it be conscious or subconscious, unconscious, whatever you want to say, you are submitting to something, right? And the easiest way in which I can word it is knowing when not to lead. And I think sometimes as men, we can get caught up in the feeling, like the of the control that comes with the leading or the perception of us leading to that.
Because your masculinity is constantly under fire, under question. And so one of the favorite parts of people's masculinity is like being a leader and leading. And it's like, if you identify with, there's a variety of aspects. Like masculinity isn't just being a leader, right? But it's what so many people attach to, especially when they don't feel like they have a lot of control over their lives. And then so if I'm as a Black woman, I'm making you feel like less of a leader. You're going to come for me. You're going to come for me.
Man.
Right?
Yeah. Oh man. This has been a really good conversation. One thing, okay, I want to ask you this, because we talk about affirmation for Black men. I don't want to put you on the spot. Right? So we will edit this out if we need to. But I did want to ask you, if you had an affirmation that you feel like you wanted to share that would be helpful for a Black man. It could be about anything. It doesn't have to be about what we discussed. Anything that you want to share
really good.
that you think will be good for Black men. And if you don't have one, like I said, I can edit it out and it's fine. We can continue the conversation.
Okay. I love that. No, I mean, I do these on the spot. So, and I loved our conversation about masculinity and being a leader. But if I could give a Black man an affirmation today on the spot, I would say, you don't need to prove to anybody that you're a leader or that you're masculine. You are the bar. You are the standard. Everybody looks to you already. You know, like, you don't need to do all this extra boasting of trying to prove for, a spot. You got the spot. The spot's already yours. So you just need to exist and hopefully build a relationship with God because God loves you. I can look at our journey as a people. I think we are highly blessed. We are highly favored. And there's already a magic within us. And all we have to do is connect and heal and invest in ourselves. That's your only job. That's your only journey, because generational wealth is more than money. It's generational healing and it's generational connection. And you're deserving of all of that. And I want to see you have it. So if we could just love each other, and it's not about you, it's not about me. We can step outside of our ego and we can build together. I think it would just be so beautiful. So, yeah.
Fellas, y'all better put that on repeat, clip it, however, whatever you need to do. But we're gonna definitely put that up on the platform. That was beautiful. I felt that for real. Man, Nicole, can you please tell the people where they can find you, how they can tap in with you, all the things that you have, anything that you may have coming up, how they can support. All the good stuff,
yeah. Oh, thank you for having me. I can't believe it's over so soon.
Yeah, right. It's been close to an hour. Yeah.
Wow.
I told you it would flow.
Time flies.
Yeah, I told you it would flow. Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me on the Express Yourself Black Man podcast. You guys can find me at Nicole J. Glass. That's my personal page. But if you are looking for some daily affirmations and you're looking to send them to somebody, you can look up at Affirmations for Black Men on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I post daily affirmations for Black men so we can heal and grow together. Black women, you guys are welcome to support and love in the comments and to share to people you love. I'm really trying to build and grow a community here so we can really change this narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not trying. You're building a community. I look through your comments and I'm like, yo, the fellas are loving this. Like, they love it.
I love that.
Yeah, they absolutely love it. And they receive it very well. Like, so yeah, I applaud you for what you do. I want to give you your flowers as well, because like I said from jump, the reason why I wanted to have you on the platform is because we need more Black women that are doing what you do. You know what I'm saying? We need more Black women that are pouring into Black men. And not to put Ty on the spot, but Ty is here, recording the podcast. Oh, they can't see it. They can't see it. But Ty just had a project that came out, and I think the project was so dope and so well executed. Right? It was basically Black men receiving flowers. I think most of them were receiving it for the first time, right? Wow. And just recording their reaction and their experience. And so segueing that, to what you do, I think it's important that we have women like y'all, right? Like that are literally showing the Black community what it looks like when a Black woman openly loves on Black men. So whatever I could do to help and bring more Black women on the platform, I have Black women on the platform all the time. Anybody that watches the podcast, listens to the podcast knows that. I think it's important for us to showcase that rather than the flip side, which is the gender war content. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not getting us anywhere.
No.
Right? Like, we don't need to be divided anymore. Like, we've done that for a little bit, and it was cool. You know what I'm saying? Got, like, it was all right.
We yelled, we kicked, we screamed.
Yeah, but now it's time to hug. You know what I'm saying? Now it's time to hug and affirm and validate and love on each other, man. We don't need any more yelling, kicking, screaming arguments, man. I'm tired. I'm sure anybody that listens to the podcast and the platform and follows feels the same way. So, Nicole, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Express Yourself Black Man podcast. We really hope you gained some valuable insight on things you could do differently with your healing journey and with the Black man in your life. If you found value in this episode, please, please, please leave us a review on whatever platform you listen or watch the podcast on. Your review is a free and easy way to support us, and it helps us reach more people like you. We're on a mission to build a stronger, more connected Black community, starting with Black men. And you can help us on that mission by taking a minute to leave a review. Your review helps us generate more listeners, which in turn generates more revenue, allowing us to expand our platform even further. And speaking of expansion, we're in the middle of that process right now with the Black Man Safe Haven. We're expanding the Safe Haven platform to add more benefits so we can continue to support the demand we've received from this audience. During this time, we've paused enrollment to Safe Haven, but we invite you to sign up for the waitlist. Safe Haven is our holistic healing platform where we take the stress out of the healing journey for Black men. In Safe Haven, we provide you or the Black man you know with access to a Black mental health professional so you can finally heal from the things you find it difficult to talk about, and you will receive support from over 200 Black men that are all on their healing journey so you don't have to heal alone anymore. You'll also get access to weekly meditations led by wellness experts, support group sessions led by Black therapists, a library of over 200 articles geared towards Black men's healing, master classes, and more. You can join the Safe Haven waitlist right now by going to www.expressyourselfblackman.com/safe-haven-waitlist or by clicking the link in the description of this podcast episode. Don't wait. Do not wait. We've had hundreds of signups for Safe Haven already, and we'll be opening enrollment soon. Due to capacity, we may not be able to service everyone, so don't hesitate to sign up now to secure your spot or the spot of a Black man you know as soon as enrollment opens. Thank you again for listening to the Express Yourself Black Man podcast. We'll be back soon with more dope episodes, and until then, take care of yourself first, then the people around you. Love y'all.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on, somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you.